We're going to explore how it enables the unified identity management across the entire environment. Now, this is where we talk about the comprehensive IAM approach. Now, let me walk you through some of the very key components. As you could see here, of course, at the center of the discussion is Entra ID. That's your cloud identity hub. And of course, around that, there are many more different protection layers. So let's say, for example, first we'll have a look at the challenges, of course, right? We'll start with the challenges. So let's say if the challenges, we need to have productivity while securing against phishing and password spray attacks. The Microsoft approaches with Entra ID, we can easily enable the secure passwordless authentication using biometrics. And of course, we also have the multi-factor authentication, which can be also be leveraged. Entra ID supports various passwordless options, including the Windows Hello for Business, coupled with the 2FA or multi-factor authentication as well. And then, of course, we've got the Microsoft Entra ID protection, which can further give you behavioral analytics and leak credential protection, anti-brute force, etc. If the challenge could be compromised devices and accounts, here we have the conditional access based on various intelligence or signals which we can derive based on device state, behavior of the session user, etc., and the 2FA which the user is leveraging, so we can do the step-up authentication in case if that's required. So that's where the Entra ID's conditional access comes into play, and of course it is further integrated with the intelligent security graph. So there are various different integrations here, like for example, integration with my third-party identity partners, and also with Intune or any EDR solutions, which gives us the relative signals here. The other challenge could be the lateral movement or the lateral attack, traversal attacks using credential theft. That's where we've got the guidance and technology for secured password, securing privileged access. And we've got the advanced credential theft attack detection using the MDI for the on-prem identities. Further on top of it, we've got the, of course, the guidance from Microsoft on leveraging the privileged access workstation, integrating that with the PIM for the privileged identities, and of course, coupling that with the on-prem Defender for Identity, which works like an ITDR solution for us. There could be third-party account risk, where we can leverage the Entra ID to move from third-party accounts to more of Entra ID's B2B, B2C solution to bring down the risk and, of course, increase the productivity for the third-party users as well. Here, what makes this entire solution compelling is the integration part of it, right? These are not separate products which are fit together. They share signals, they share the policies, and as I mentioned previously, also we have a unified administration experience. So an alert in Defender for Identity can trigger a conditional access policy which can block a user in Entra ID automatically. So that's the level of integration we are looking at. Now, when we talk about the modern identity features, right? Now, four modern identity features that I want you to be able to explain clearly to your customer. Number one, of course, is the conditional access. This is the intelligent context-aware access control. It's not just asking is your password right. It is also checking whether your device is compliant, which the user is coming from, if the location is trusted or not, is the risk score of that user is acceptable or not. And based on that, it makes access decision accordingly in the context in real time. And then, of course, we've got the multi-factor authentication, which addresses 99.9% of the identity attacks. So if your customer is not using MFA universally, then this could be your first recommendation, right? Then, of course, we've got the passwordless. We are in 2026 already, and I'm sure going forward, the future is going to be no passwords, right? So Microsoft Authenticator, Windows Hello, FIDO2 keys can be leveraged. So users can authenticate with something they have or something they are, and not something they know, which can forget or can be phished, right? And then we have the single sign-on. You can use one set of credentials for all applications. That could be on-prem, cloud, SaaS. Of course, users love it. IT loves it, and it increases security by reducing the password fatigue for the users as well. So, in fact, Microsoft research shows that the organization using all of these four modern identity features together, they will see a dramatic reduction in the account compromise and definitely less tickets on the help desk, and therefore reducing the help desk cost as well. Now, conditional access is the crown jewel of Entra ID, right? So you can think of conditional access as a real-time policy engine. So every time a user or a workload tries to access a resource, the conditional access will evaluate a set of signals and then therefore make a decision. So the signals which the conditional access evaluates would include who is the user, that is identifying identity and risk, what device they are on, if the device is compliant, if the device is managed via MDM or not, and what network. For example, if the user is coming from trusted location like IP subnet, trusted IP subnet, maybe office IP subnet or a site IP subnet or a VPN IP subnet, etc., or maybe from a compliant network or compliant location, like for a given geographical location, and what are they accessing, what application, etc. Right. So the decisions here this conditional access can make is allow, block, or require something, right? That requiring could mean requiring MFA, requiring a compliant device. It could require a password reset or restrict the session capabilities. So the power of Entra Suite extends the conditional access policy further, right? With leveraging the internet access. Now we can apply the conditional access to network traffics as well. So with private access, the conditional access policy can gate all the application access at the connection layer itself. This means we can have one policy engine which can control access across all the various different scenarios. So to give you a real world example here, let's say a user travels to an unusual location, right? So the conditional access can detect high sign-in risk and therefore step up the authentication to require an MFA challenge. And if they fail, it can automatically block the access, flag the account for review, and all automatically it can be done in the matter of some seconds. Yeah. The multi-factor authentication is your single highest, or I would say highest impact security recommendation for any customer today. One statistic you should definitely memorize is MFA drops the risk of compromise by 99.9%, right? So there is no single control with that kind of impact, as you could see here. So Microsoft supports a broad range of MFA methods, which matters because different users and different scenarios calls for different approaches. So one is, of course, we've got the phishing resistant method, which is the most secure. So Microsoft Authenticator with device binding, Windows Hello for Business, FIDO2 security keys, certificate-based authentication. These different options cannot be defeated by the adversary in the middle attacks. Then we have got the strong but not phishing resistant, like push notifications from Authenticator app, which is good for most of the users. And then, of course, we have acceptable for low risk, for example, soft tokens or OTP, which is, I would rather say, better than nothing, but still can be intercepted. But still, it is fine if you don't have anything and you want to start with something, right? And there could be various different scenarios where you might also want to fall back on SMS and voice call. Normally, these days, we avoid it from an SMS perspective and voice call perspective and SMA as an MFA, because these are all vulnerable to the SIM swap attacks and similar various different scenarios, right? Ideally, when we are looking at the practical implementation of MFA, it's always important to guide customers to a phased approach, right? Maybe we start with authenticator push for everyone and then progressively move sensitive users to more stronger phishing resistant methods. Passwordless, I guess, is where we are heading these in this day and age, right? Microsoft has over 150 million users already on passwordless authentication, right? And therefore, that's not any more theoretical. It's already being rolled out. So there are three passwordless options. One is Windows Hello for Business, which is perfect for corporate PCs. That's where you have the biometric or pin based tied to the device, and it is phishing resistant by design. Then the second option is Microsoft Authenticator. That's the most flexible option. It can work on any device. It is free to be downloaded. It supports biometric on mobile, and it's great for most of the users. Then the third option is the FIDO2 security keys. That is, these are hardware keys from Yubico, HID, Phytian, and these are all gold standard for high security scenarios like administrator, privileged users, and etc. The business case is very strong. Users love it because there's no password to remember or reset. IT loves it because there's less help desk tickets, and of course, security team also loves it because it eliminates the number one attack vector. Next time when you meet your customer, it's very important to set up a passwordless pilot, maybe with your next Entra demonstration. And the customer experience to show would be signing in without a password, which is normally, in my, at least I could say from my experiences, typically a wow moment, which accelerates a lot of broad conversation and adoption amongst the customers. Now, here's a quick win that sells itself, I guess, is that's the Entra ID can reduce the help desk calls for password reset by up to 75%. And for customers, password reset ticket, or rather for the enterprise customers, I think the password reset tickets are one of the top help desk cost, right? So we have the app gallery, that is the My App portal, which gives users a single launch pad for all of their applications, that is cloud as well as the on-premises. So that could be combined with the SSO. So user could go there and launch applications from one single screen, right, or one single portal. And there we have the SSPR as well. So the self-service password reset is the critical piece. From here, they can reset their own passwords securely using pre-registered verification methods. So there's no help desk call required here. The My Sign In page is, I would rather say, is a underrated security feature. Users can review their own sign-in history. They can flag suspicious activity, and of course, they can effectively go ahead and change the MFA methods if required. So this kind of turns your user population into a much more distributed security sensors, I would say. So if you look at the ROI, let's say take the customer's number of users maybe, and then multiply that with the average monthly help desk tickets, and multiply that, let's say, by cost per ticket, a 75% reduction in password reset often justifies the entire Entra license cost if you look at more from an ROI perspective and in the context of SSPR. Now let's go a bit deeper on the secure adaptive access pillar, right? The key insight here is that authentication is no longer binary. It is not just password right is equal to access granted. In fact, the modern adaptive access considers if this user is a right user, if this user is a trusted device, if this is a normal location and a behavior, is there any risky signal suggesting compromise? Are they accessing an appropriate resource for their role, etc.? So there's a machine learning which is working behind the scenes, which analyzes all these signals simultaneously, and it makes a risk-based access decision. This means the legit users get frictionless access, while the suspicious users, their access attempts could get challenged or blocked, right? Now that's the answer to the question, how do I protect against the attacks, which defeats a basic MFA, right? Risk-based adaptive access can catch the sophisticated attacks even when the attackers has got these stolen valid credentials. Further, the Entra ID also, from an IAM perspective, also gives you seamless user experience pillar, which is what makes the security more sustainable. So there are security tools which frustrates the users and it get them circumvented, right? So users will find workarounds if the security is too much burdensome for them. So the single sign-on for any user type, any application, whether it's a SaaS application, legacy on-premise application via the Entra ID app proxy, or maybe a custom-built application. When you set up the SSO, the users sign in once and they are authenticated everywhere, right? And on top of it, we've got the self-service portal for app discovery. We've got the self-service portal for the access request, which can empower the users while maintaining the governance overall, right? So instead of emailing IT for app access, the users can go ahead and submit a request through this self-service portal and it routes to the right approver and they can get access in minutes. Further, we have the phishing resistant passwordless credentials. That's the ultimate user experience upgrade. No passwords to type, no MFA for every sign in, just biometric or PIN authentication on a trusted device. The unified identity management pillar is about visibility and control. You can only secure what you can see. The Entra ID provides a single identity system for cloud and on-premises applications. So via the Entra Connect or Cloud Sync, the on-prem identities can be synchronized to the cloud. That gives you one authoritative directory. We can connect any app that is by leveraging the pre-built app gallery, which has thousands of integrations for popular SaaS applications. For on-premise applications, we've got the app proxy, which can extend Entra ID to legacy web applications without requiring a VPN. For custom applications, the developer SDKs will also make it very straightforward for integration. Now, then further we have the B2B identity management. That is where the external partner identities, which are managed through Entra with the same policies applied as for typically the internal users, also can be managed via different trust levels. So when everything is on one identity system, your security policies also applies consistently everywhere, right? So there is no more identity silos where some applications are protected or maybe some applications are not typically. Now, um, this diagram shows what a normally a mature Entra ID deployment looks like. Let me walk you through some of the key connection points here. And then, of course, we will be looking at the various different components here as we progress in this workshop. The center here is definitely Microsoft Entra ID. That's your identity hub. Connected to it from the left, as you could see, that's your identity sources, right? Could be HR systems, on-prem AD, external identity providers, etc. And on the right-hand side, these are the SaaS applications, right? From the gallery, the Entra ID app gallery, or it could be cloud-hosted custom applications. Could be across any cloud, or it could be on-prem legacy applications connected via the app proxy, and even the applications behind the partner network access controllers coming via the secure hybrid access. So that's your foundation for zero trust, right? Every app access goes through the Entra ID. Every access decision is evaluated. And for customers who are starting this journey, they don't have to connect everything at once. They can start with the top 10 most critical application, get them onto Entra ID, put MFA on top of it with conditional access, and then they can start building up from there. Now, just to quickly also give you a sneak peek on the Defender for Identity, right? Not every customer cannot they cannot fully migrate completely off from the on-prem AD, right? And that's okay. For those customers, Microsoft Defender for Identity is very essential. Defender for Identity can help you monitor your on-prem AD environment where the customer still would want to stick with the on-prem environment, right? And it provides real-time analytics to detect any suspicious activity like lateral movement, credential harvesting, pass the hash attacks, and so on. The user investigation priority also, the priority scores will help your SOC focus on what matters most. The automatic response to compromised identities can be given via the Defender for Identity, and it can also go ahead and suspend the accounts, or it can go ahead and mandate the password resets as well. The key differentiator is Defender for Identity understands AD at a deep level. It knows what normal AD traffic look like. So it can detect the subtle anomalies which the attackers use to move laterally. For hybrid movements, or for the hybrid environments rather, which is mainly true for the enterprise customers, as you'll appreciate. The combination of Defender for Identity for on-prem and the Entra ID protection for cloud identities gives you a much 360-degree visibility across the entire identity infrastructure. Now, let's dig into different type of identities which Entra helps you to manage. Understanding the identity taxonomy is also very important for architecting a lot of comprehensive solutions, right? So in the Entra, identities falls into three main categories. Number one, we've got the workforce identity. That's your employees, contractors, partners, and these are your typically the traditional human identities. And then of course we have, as we mentioned, we've got the external identities, and then of course we've got the workload identities, right? All of these identities they managed through the Entra Admin Center. Now this is the Entra Admin Management Portal from where we actually manage all of the Entra configuration, including the identities, right? And we're going to look at the various different type of identities as we go forward in this session. But just to, you know, also reflect back on the new Entra Admin Center here. In the Entra Admin Center, you'll see there are now many more features being added. So first of all, we've got the information hub. That's where if you go to what's new and if you go to highlights, that's where you get to see all the change and the announcement around it. If you go to the highlights, that's where you will see the new roadmap which is coming up. And then when you look at the roadmap, in fact, that's where you'll see all the different features which will be added. They are shown actually with the specific category, the service, the release type, release date, and the state of it as they come up in the Entra Admin Center. And then of course we've got the change announcements. So in case if there is any specific change, say for example, imposition of MFA for all users by default, or strong MFA, or maybe any specific implementation by Microsoft, they would be shown up here in the change announcements.